Yeah.
How does the end go? Do 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 do. I like that fade.
It was almost as if we just played it straight from the MP3 file.
So when are we getting our own soundtrack?
That's a good question. The people are clamoring for it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, waiting outside our house right now for Volume 1.
Are we ready?
Yes, I don't know. Very good.
All right. Welcome, listeners, to the Last Checkpoint Podcast, episode 23, a bi-weekly show for gamers, by gamers. We're a conversational podcast discussing and debating about anything and everything video game related. I'm your host, Chris Dalsay, and always joining me on the cast, we're back, are two of my closest friends and fellow co-hosts. To my left is Ryan Raimundo. What's up, Ryan?
What up?
And to my right,
Oh man, I missed that.
Patrick Romero. What's going on, Patrick?
Hey, you know who it is. It's your boy, it's me, P-A-T.
And over on the left sack, it's AJ Chrysosimo. What's up, AJ?
Hey.
Yeah, there he is. Our lawyer.
Hey.
It's on record.
You're giving us more to edit out?
I'm keeping it in. We are back, guys, after a small little hiatus.
The Gazoon tight?
Yeah.
What's that?
doing a regular cast. I think we're going to open up with the debate, but to segue into the debate, just a couple days ago, Destiny 2 dropped for consoles, PC, and Ryan and I got into it a little bit. Played yesterday. Yesterday was the first day, right?
Yesterday was launch.
Yeah. Yesterday was lunchtime. We played a little yesterday. I think we're about 3-4 hours in. You level up fast in the game. I think cap is 20, where I think we're already at 9. I think Ryan's at 10. But absolutely loving it. It's a little premature to give it any sort of rating on our part, but loving it so far. Probably give you guys an update next cast. But segue from that, Destiny, obviously, successful FPS, first-person shooter, which brings us to our debate.
That's it? That's all the prep time
That's all the prep we all get. That's all the prep we all get.
Jeez.
So said AJ. Well, I missed. Who's taking the pro on this? Did we ever decide?
I'm pro.
Okay.
I'm pro.
So the debate today is first-person shooters will always be the most successful game genre.
Well, Ryan brought this up, right?
Ryan brought it up.
He's really passionate about this.
I mean, apparently he's an FPS fiend. He uses his fighter stick for first-person shooters.
Oh,
This may or may not be true.
I like that.
My favorite first-person shooter of all time is Time Crisis. Fight me.
Okay, can you put that on the stand?
I mean, Time Crisis holds a special place in my heart
But not your favorite.
and quarters.
We'll go. Let's say 7 minutes. If it's juicy, we'll continue a little bit. But
Let
we'll
it
say 7 minutes.
simmer as long as
Oh my
you...
gosh! All right. And Ryan is taking the pro. Whenever you're ready, man.
First-person shooters.
Oh wow!
I want to focus.
A long pause, man. That never gets old.
I want to focus on the words first person. Like, why do we play our video games? I think I personally, I feel, I think I can speak for everyone when I say that we play our video games because we want to escape from life, right? What better way than to immerse ourselves and do it from the perspective of the heroes or the villains that we choose to play in first person? I think it's the best way to experience a video game. I think it's the most entertaining way to experience a video game. There are numbers to prove that first-person shooters sell pretty well, best in fact over years, and I just think overall the first-person shooter genre is the most successful genre, and will be for years to come.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god!
Dare I say decades?
That's a bold statement. It's ironic that a title with the word "first" in it isn't number one in its own category.
Boom.
That's it. Mic drop.
Wow.
Mic drop. Right. This isn't even a personal statement. I truly believe first-person shooters have never been and will never be the most successful game genre. I'm curious. I'm gonna let you. I want to welcome back. I'm gonna give you the mic. I want you to go first.
First thing I did.
See what you have to say.
First thing I did. I just typed in 2016 top selling games. Number 1 and 2, Call of Duty, Infinite Warfare, Battlefield 1, respectively.
Oh, no.
Respectively.
FIFA beat both of them, but whatever.
I mean, according to GameSpot. Okay, so I was like, you know what? Maybe in 2015 they didn't have a good showing. First one on the list, Call of Duty Black Ops 2. I was like, okay, maybe they gained popularity in those 2 years. Maybe how about 2014, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, Destiny. I mean, there's a trend. There's a trend in sales, and we're just talking sales, right? Obviously, people want to buy first-person shooters. On top of that, you go on Twitch, the hub, if you will, of watching all kinds of video games. What has dethroned the consistently number 1 streamed game of all time, League of Legends? It's PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, constantly getting at least.
Well, that's a third-person shooter, but
I mean, a lot of the top streamers are playing in first person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but that's also a first-person shooter.
It's fine.
Destiny just came out, amazing game. Probably sold like 10 million copies first day. Probably. I have a good feeling about this.
Don't fact check us yet.
I have a good feeling about this, but it's proving to be top success according to Twitch, because it's last I checked, it was the 3rd most streamed game.
All right, can I ask you a few questions?
You can ask me as many questions as you want, sir.
Q&A debate.
Does wearing a new outfit every day make you feel more attractive? Like, these are rhetorical. Does the iPhone every year getting thinner and having less features like removing headphone jacks, does that make it better than an Android phone?
Yeah.
Does buying a skin on League, does that make you a better player?
Yeah, it does actually.
It doesn't. It doesn't. But that's what I'm referring to Call of Duty, right? Because you've mentioned it in your argument. Call of Duty is without a doubt first-person shooters
without a doubt.
The first-person shooters like lead game in the it and its franchise. The first iteration, I even looked it up, was the 4th highest selling game at 250 million. 2003.
Yes.
But guess what the number 1 is? Mario at 311 million copies sold. That's over time. And I'll give you this, right? Admittedly, the first-person shooter genre has been more popular now than ever, right? And it's resulting in both new and repackaged games coming out every year. And you're talking about Call of Duty, Battlefield 1, Destiny. These aren't new games. These are just kind of like repackaging of the old games. Add a few new features. It's the same game underneath, right? Underneath it all. But that's the thing, right? How long as a first-person shooter gamer and as an industry, how long can you ride the coattails of Call of Duty, right? Because you're making the statement that first-person shooters will always be the most successful genre. Well, as far as numbers go, and you mentioned it, the only reason why it's the most popular genre is because of Call of Duty. So when Call of Duty number 5002 comes out, will it be as popular? I don't think it will.
Funny you bring that up, because you claim it's just a reskin, but that's not all the case. In fact, the thing about first-person shooters is it's doing this interesting thing where it is sort of taken on. I don't even want to say parasitic. That sounds wrong, but it does this interesting thing where it blends genres. For instance, I want to bring up Destiny. Before Destiny, we knew it all as an MMO. We can all think of it as an MMO, right? Sure. It's a massively online multiplayer game,
sure,
but it's also a first-person shooter. It was, I think, the first significant time where attempt at a first-person shooter MMO. I want to bring up games like Overwatch, Paladins. These can be also attributed to the MOBA, the MOBA genre, which is also a first-person shooter. Resident Evil 7, it was VR, but is also technically a first-person shooter, right? Because it takes you in first person.
Mm-hmm.
Those Resident Evil can be considered a horror game or a role-playing game. First-person shooters have effectively and successfully been able to take over other genres, but still be considered a first-person shooter because it takes you in the perspective of the first person, right? So that's the thing is, you mentioned that you mentioned how long can it go on? Well, obviously it's taking over these other genres. The reason for its success is because of the fact that it puts you in the perspective of the player. It puts you in the perspective of the action, puts you straight like in the face of the action. And I think that's why people find it very much more entertaining than other games. And I feel, and that's why you could see its continued success.
So I wanted to refact check you, right? Because the actual top selling list of 2016 was FIFA at number 1, Call of Duty Battlefield number 2 and 3, and then you have The Division and GTA 5 at 4 and 5. So
you still mentioned the top selling game.
So I guess
you still mentioned a top selling game.
I guess if soccer didn't exist in this world, maybe it would be number 1. But even then, right? Let's say Call of Duty and Battlefield just took a break for a year. The number 2 and 3 spot would be held by third-person shooters, not first-person. I think first-person shooters are popular. I think because of these said franchises. But I think we want to maybe as gamers step away from seeing just a hand and a gun on our screen, right? Maybe we want to see more than that.
Let's go into closing statements.
There's no doubt about it. Ladies
there is
and gentlemen.
doubt. There's so much doubt
Ladies
about
and
it.
gentlemen,
What are you talking about?
When you think video games nowadays, the first thing that pops into your head is maybe it's Counter-Strike, maybe it's Overwatch, maybe it's Call of Duty, maybe it's Battlefield, maybe it's Battlefront. Maybe you're a Star Wars fan, you love Battlefront.
Oh God, here we go.
Maybe if you're like AJ, you like Resident Evil and you want to be in the position of pure fear. There's one thing that all these games have in common, and it's the fact that you're in first person. And first person shooter is the genre name, but I feel like first person is going to take gaming. It has and will continue to take gaming to the next level. And that is why I think first person shooters will remain on top of the gaming industry.
So AJ as a lawyer
Okay.
can kind of join up with me on this. The numbers show, right? That's proof. There's actual fact that a first-person shooter is not the highest-selling game of all time. A Mario side-scroller is. A first-person shooter isn't the most watched esport. A MOBA is, right? And even last year, it wasn't the most bought game a soccer game was. There's a lot of genres stacked up against you in first-person shooters, Ryan, and I don't think that first-person shooters will ever take the number 1 spot. Not last year, not next year, not ever.
Interesting debate.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, AJ wants 2 cents. Oh, wow.
Oh, he's getting up.
Let's go, baby.
Getting on the mic.
Here we go.
He's getting in the
Here
studio.
we go.
Although I think that both Patrick and Ryan have really good points, I think the problem with Patrick's position
Why?
is that he's arguing that all these things have maybe dethroned temporarily first-person shooters, but the thing is that first-person shooters are classic. They're never going to go away.
Ooh.
They have the staying power because people want to live in the fantasy. That is why you play a video game. So ultimately, Patrick, just because some things have taken the place of first-person shooter, that doesn't mean that first-person shooters are not the quintessential
You're
gaming
saying
experience.
you don't want to dress up in a plumber's outfit and hop down a pipe? You have no interest in that?
I mean,
You don't
let's
want to
not get into his
escape as
personal
a-
life.
You don't want to escape into that world in overalls and everything?
Let me just say that AJ is the most qualified individual out of
that
everybody in
proves
the
nothing.
world, and everything that you should say, everything that you just heard is truth, is
That
fact.
proves absolutely nothing.
So whether or not
He's still
FPSs
provisional.
whether or not FPSs are the most successful gaming genre or not, I do enjoy the fact that, and I don't know if it was said too in depth, but FPSs have kind of always been there. From the earliest games, Doom was probably the most prolific game of all time during its tenure.
Didn't that pave the way for other shooters?
I would argue maybe all of them, right? And
Yeah.
then like something like GoldenEye, right, and Perfect Dark, as you get a little bit down the line. Half-Life is probably one of the most sought after PC games of all time, and then that led in Portal, Team Fortress. Well,
Right.
that's not it. Well, anyway, but yeah, there's always been an FPS game, which is Nice.
There's an obvious evolution, right? Like if you go back and then you see first person shooters now, like what do you think? How do you think it's evolved over time? Like obviously for the better because it's more popular now than ever. But what do you think is different outside of like the mechanic, right? Because first person shooters are pretty straightforward, right? You hold a gun, you point the crosshair, you shoot.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's just it, though. Is that the evolution of the first person shooter? Is that how many different ways can you shoot your gun? Is how these developers are tackling the question, and I think Overwatch is the most interesting, in my opinion, the most interesting evolution, if you will, of the genre because it puts you in a unique hero with unique abilities and like as opposed to like a Call of Duty where you can change your loadout or have the same loadout as the person next to you. Overwatch kind of forced you into not just the play style but the character itself, and really and I think that was just the brand new and compared to what first person shooters have been doing to the predecessors.
Can you explain to me how Call of Duty Modern Warfare adding like a jetpack and a grappling hook, was that really enough to keep it fresh?
Not for me, but I mean, millions of Americans
teach their own. But I mean, I appreciate, right? Call of Duty trying new things. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Overwatch is the best example of what a modern day shooter is, right? Just throwing as many elements as you can to compensate for the simplicity.
Sure. So speaking of Overwatch, we can get into what we're playing. I can go ahead and start. So, I mean, it's been a while since we talked about what we're playing. So there's a whole list. Obviously, Paladins we're streaming on the YouTube channel.
Right.
Latest patch came out with a new sniper, so that's fun. Playing, as we talked about earlier,
do you want to plug
2,
it real quick?
The YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, we have a legit verified URL now. So it's youtube.com/c/last-checkpoint.
Yes.
And it feels good.
Yes. It feels
real good. So /C, like a Reddit R, but instead it's C for a channel /checkpoint. So check that out, guys. So we're streaming that there. We're going to stream Destiny 2 as well. I played a lot of Sonic Mania when it dropped on the Switch. Love that game. It's awesome. The devs at Sega, this was their pet project and just put a new spin on the old game, which is really cool because Bev swears that some of the levels she's playing are the old levels, but I've been telling her they just like borrowed a lot.
Yeah. So it's all fresh content.
Oh yeah, and it's awesome. It's awesome. But I guess the one I'll spend time talking about today is Sudden Strike 4, RTS, World War II, real-time strategy game RTS on the PC. If you're not familiar with RTS games, think of StarCraft, Warcraft 3. So it's a lot like that. This one happened to drop for the PC and the PS4. We got it for the PC. And it's a strategy game at heart, right?
Right.
It's you get your units, you have to command your units, you select them, move them around.
Sure.
It's not like StarCraft in the sense where StarCraft is a base building RTS, where you kind of have to establish your base, build out your units, try to counter what the other team is doing.
Right.
This is more of a campaign. Choose your commander. Your commander has a certain perk that empowers your troops or you in general. And you get a finite amount of troops. You get a finite amount of reinforcements, and you got to figure out how to use them properly. So it's
like a puzzle.
Yeah, kind of. It is a puzzle in a sense, but you have to play it different than, because when I was first playing it, like a Command and Conquer,
right,
like a StarCraft, where my troops are kind of expendable. But this kind of being true to maybe World War II style. Yeah. You get your troops, and those are your troops, right? So if they die, that's it. And it doesn't really hold your hand. So not only is it strategic, it's a little challenging. They have you kind of learn, which troops are stronger against which enemy troops. Sometimes enemy troops can't be seen from up close, and you kind of figure that out the hard way. You have to use the landscape as hiding grounds for infantry, so stuff like that.
Right.
It gets really interesting. I highly recommend it for those that like RTSs, like a challenge, are fans of games in the World War II space, and frankly are fans of history, because at the end of each mission, they give you a little historical clip and a reading of what really happened at the battle that you just fought at, which I think is kind of cool. You can play as the Allied forces, the German forces, or the Soviet forces, and I feel really uncomfortable playing as the Germans or the Soviets, so I only play through the Allied forces. But I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm not sure if I'll go back to it because it's not my cup of tea. But I'm sure it is.
Does it give you like alternate endings? Like if you win
alternate,
as
I like that. Like Man in the High Castle on Hulu, where the Germans and Japan won. No, it doesn't give you alternate endings.
Man,
it puts you in certain battles that
shouldn't be won, but you...
Well, I mean that you will have, that you should win.
Right.
So yeah, that's funny though. They should do that maybe in a different universe.
It'd be cool. Could you mentioned them not holding your hand through the game.
Yeah.
Could that potentially deter like a casual gamer from playing, or is it? I mean, hard at first, but easy to pick up as you go.
Absolutely. I would think that would definitely deter your average gamer. I mean, frankly, RTSs aren't for your average gamer anyway. I think if you're going to play an RTS, you know what you're getting into. Mm-hmm. But also, that you bring up a good point of what deters the average gamer. I think also that RTSs, we're kind of spoiled with stuff like StarCraft 2.
Yes.
Where the AI and the pathing of your units, like say you select your infantry or your Zerglings or whatever, and then you move them somewhere, they kind of take the smartest path, and they kind of, for the most part, you can set them to attack if they get bombarded on their path. Sudden Strike doesn't hold your hand like that, so their pathing is kind of wacky. Like if one of the units gets strays off, like they're kind of lost. I mean, you know where they are, but you lose track of them in your little space. So you kind of have to really micromanage them there, and it's something that I realized I wasn't thankful for enough in different RTSs. And also the fact that you kind of have to use your units the right way, right? Like you can't use, much like in a regular RTS, you can't use your infantry to take out like a tank, right? Unless they have rocket launchers and stuff, and that can get annoying for a new RTS player, I would think, because it shoves you like in that situation right away. Where you need to use the right units for the right enemy. So, but like I said, I think it's a lot of fun. It's not for me. But
and anyone can play that game how they want, right? If I had the choice,
if you can, but you'll more than likely lose if you don't play it the right way.
If I had the choice, I would have that straggler just kind of steer away and then come back and just clean up and win. Sort of like like a heroic movie.
Right. That's your hero. You're making a hero out of a nobody.
Out of one infantry unit.
Patrick likes to make Hollywood movies out of his RTS games. So that's what I'm playing. Like I said, I'm playing also, Paladin, Sonic Mania, Destiny 2. Agents of Mayhem came out. That's by Deep Silver, the guys that did Saints Row, which I really like. So I have to support them. But Patrick, you're playing something that you kind of want to talk about.
Yeah. So this game was introduced at a previous PAX. It's called Hyper Universe. First of its kind, ladies and gentlemen. First of its kind.
Right.
First of its. Okay, wait. Not for. It's jumping off an unpopular genre. 2D MOBAs. Awesome Knots, I think, did it before it, but they've taken that craft and honed into it. Mm-hmm. What Hyper Universe is? It's a MOBA, right? So everything you'd expect from a MOBA. You get the lanes. You get the jungle camps, and you get the turrets, and then you get the inevitable nexus they have to beat at the end of the road, right? It's a 4v4, and every character is unique, just like any other MOBA. You got Dotas and your leagues, each having their own abilities, their own themes, and even their own skins that you can purchase like somewhere down the line. Mm-hmm. But what I think makes this game more interesting is that it's 2D, right? And it's a lot easier to pick up than League. So, I mean, I'll talk about it more the more I play it, and for the listener out there, potentially streaming, potentially.
So this is a long haul game. Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah, wow. I honestly believe, and everyone can quote me on this.
Oh wow,
this is going to be the next big game.
At everyone.
At everyone, this is going to be the next big game.
You think so?
And you'll see me right up top of that streaming list.
So I have a couple questions. I know Ryan has a couple questions.
Sure. Please, please.
I might have missed it, but this game's on PC, right?
Yes,
It's on PC.
It's Steam, so you buy it on Steam.
Very good. Is it free to play right now, or is it
so
buy-in?
right now it's still early access.
Okay.
I paid the $10 early access fee. So with that, you get all the starting characters.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a booster. So just like, a lot of other, like, it's a trend, right?
Yeah.
Early access, you get to play the game early on top of the content that you don't have to work for in the beginning. Just like sort of like Paladins. And yeah, I believe you start off with 20 characters. There's 20 playable characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's only one map, unfortunately. But so this game actually feeds off of its Korean counterpart. In Korea, it's already big.
Okay, I guess that was gonna be my last question. I thought this was like a game from one of the Asian countries.
Right. It's big there, right? And I think their character list is up in the 30s.
Okay.
So
they're about it.
They're all about it.
All right.
And I'm all about it
Okay.
too. Ryan, do you have any questions?
I'm just watching some footage and
Oh man, it's not of me, right?
no, seems very unique.
It is. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll take it back. I'm not gonna make a claim and say it's gonna be the next big game,
Goodness.
but it's gonna be a big game. I'm actually curious to see where this kind of takes us because for those that like love League, love Dota, but are tired of that same angle, that same aerial viewpoint, this is a fresh, I think, take on what a MOBA is. I think for at least those MOBA players out there, they should at least give it a try.
That's a good point. I mean, you're on the money when you say that the fresh take in the MOBA space, I think, is welcome.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because MOBAs are so popular, but there's going to be a day when we're just like, this is a copy and paste MOBA.
Yeah.
So to take it in different directions is really smart, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to go into what you're playing?
Yeah.
Kai.
So, Chris reeled me into Paladins.
Whoa! I didn't know we were talking about that.
No, we can. Love me some.
No, I'm just saying. You mentioned it earlier. I enjoyed it. I'm enjoying it very much.
Yeah. Catch him also being featured on streams off and on.
Catch my voice.
Oh yeah.
Catch me.
You don't
catch
get
me
enough of it here.
Right.
You can find it there.
YouTube.com/C/.
Catch me getting MVPs every single game.
When I'm not playing.
On every single role.
When I'm not.
On both teams.
Oh my god. Nobody wins. Only Ryan.
Paladins is amazing. I just picked up Destiny yesterday.
Notice how that wasn't on my recently played list.
Yeah.
But I'll get to that another cast.
I mean, when's payday?
It has nothing to do with finances. It's a choice. I'm making a choice.
Shall I go into first brief impressions?
First impressions.
Okay, first impressions. First impressions are, I think it's a great game. It looks just as amazing as the first one. The gameplay is much better. The story seems to be very interesting so far. I have one major gripe with it though, playing the game for a few hours already, and it's that I feel like this should have been given to us in the first Destiny. The way it's packaged right now, I feel like this game, if it were Destiny 1, would have been amazing. For obvious reasons. Yeah. Right. But they copied a lot of what the first Destiny was, and I guess that's appropriate. But when you think sequel, you think just brand new game, brand new everything. But they just made major, very necessary improvements on the first one. So I'm kind of mixed. I'm kind of mixed about it. It's kind of like this should have been my first Destiny experience. But don't get me wrong, it's an amazing game so far, and I'm gonna play it through just as hard as I did at the first one. So, but it's great. It's definitely worth the pickup. I would recommend it so far.
So on to our last kind of segment.
Oh, where did you go last week?
Where did I go? Where did I go? Why did we miss?
Where were you?
Why did we miss the cast? I'll tell you.
What happened?
PAX West.
Oh, that's where you were. I was looking all over for you.
Higgity PAX
West happened.
I looked
boys.
everywhere and I couldn't find you. You were there the whole time.
So, PAX West happened last weekend, September 1st to the 4th.
You want to tell people what PAX is?
You can.
I don't know.
I didn't write it.
Oh, I do know. So, So PAX is short for Penny Arcade Expo.
Yes.
It's a series of gaming festivals held, and it was in Seattle?
Yeah.
It was in Seattle this year, on the west side. Oh, there's a west, there's a east, and there's a south, right?
Gosh. It used to be called PAX Prime,
Prime,
but
yeah.
I think too many people got offended by that. So PAX West it is now.
Well, it was
So the
called
politically correct is
PAX West.
it was called PAX Prime because it is the prime
It is
of
the
all
prime.
the
Yeah.
of all the PAXs, right?
But people are like, you're not better than us.
Oh my
But they are better than you.
So it's basically a convention celebrating the gaming culture.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think in a lot of ways, for people that aren't in the industry,
Right.
this is the de facto gaming convention.
That's why you were there.
And that's why I was there.
Yeah.
I was hoping to go there as a representative of Last Checkpoint, but the PAX guys were kind of slow in responding. They did respond, which was evidently enough, but they were just asking for more information. But I was just saying, this is a side note.
already gonna be
but I said I already have my ticket. Like, why would I? You're too late.
Just give me
I wasn't gonna sacrifice not going.
You should have. You should have brought your own laminated.
I know, huh?
And just
like gold plated.
Yeah.
Oh, good. That'd been embarrassing. Next year though, we'll try to make sure we go as press. Anyway, I went this year. Took my fiance Bev. Unfortunately, these two couldn't go, but one day we'll all go together. And it was my first experience at PAX. And I just want to touch on some highlights, and then maybe you guys can ask questions if you want. Nice. But it's held if anyone's been to the Washington Convention Center in Seattle, huge convention center, 6 stories. They took up 3 or 4 of them, and then maybe a couple more for press and stuff.
Oh wow!
And 3 of the floors had their exhibition halls. I think I put the expo hall map for you guys on the doc. Nice, but yeah, anyone who's anyone in the industry in terms of developers, producers, publishers, they're all there. Nice. It was great to see. I met a couple of my favorite streamers, Odd One. Yes. You guys know how much I love Odd One of old League of Legends lore. We met him.
Did you tell him about us?
No, I didn't have the. I mean, I was caught up in the moment. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been watching you for forever, and you're my favorite TSM player.
You're listening right now.
Maybe we'll see. But he was just on the streets of Seattle.
What if he was like, "Oh, you're Chris?"
I mean, one day.
From the last
one day I'll get that. I met Odd One. He was great. I met for those of you that are not living under a rock, Dr. Disrespect, highest watched Twitch streamer on Twitch right now. Met him. He's fantastic. That man is 6'8". He's a tall beast.
Oh my goodness.
He was.
You don't get that from that camera angle.
You don't actually. Yeah. You don't. But he was really nice. He was. I was telling Ryan. He was half in character, so he was being funny like that. But he was also half very genuine and very grateful.
So
that
it's all a play.
How dare you? Of course, it's all a play.
That's not. I feel lied to.
He puts on a great character and deserves his viewers.
Right.
So, yeah, he had a great showing at the Twitch booth there. But yeah, I mean, maybe I can go into who was there. Twitch was there, obviously, and then the big players, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, they're all there with giant showings with their lines just like obnoxiously long. And then you had your stream teams like Twitch and Mixer, and then your big hardware companies. They were all there: Asus, Razer, Logitech. Astro is actually like the official sponsor. Shout out to Astro, San Francisco company. They're the official sponsor of PAX. And then, up and coming devs. I mean, obviously there was a big indie scene, but also those guys that are in the middle of the indie scene and the AAA titles. I'm talking about guys like Phoenix Labs. They have that game Dauntless coming out. They had a really big showing. Square Enix was there. They brought Dissidia.
I'm curious, did they show anything new? Because I've been following Dauntless.
For Dauntless?
Yeah.
They didn't show anything new.
Okay.
But their line was capped really early. People really wanted to play that. And it seemed like it really had a big, big following.
If it weren't for that hefty price tag.
Oh, for the
Founders?
alpha? Yeah, no, please. I'm not paying $80 for a free to play game this year. You know what I mean? Like
goodness.
Don't be ridiculous.
That's good that they have interest.
They have a high amount of interest.
When I'm there, I expect booths.
Oh yeah, okay. So I guess maybe I'll give you a visual of
Give me
what it's like.
Paint me a picture.
So giant, elaborate booths.
Okay.
Of your favorite game companies, just dispersed about.
Oh baby.
With a bunch of sweaty middle-aged men walking around. that
Yes.
in some crevices of
sold.
the convention center, you kind of have to go shoulder to shoulder with them.
You had me at sweaty.
No, I half kid. It's a little overcrowded. I think there's about 70 to 80,000 people there.
Oh wow.
And it's too many people. I mean, I go to Comic-Con and I'm telling you
Wow.
that this is too many
Compared to
people.
Comic-Con. Okay.
And I would argue that it's too many people because some of these people are giving up a day of a convention to line up for one game. Like I'll give you for instance, like Capcom was there. They brought Monster Hunter Worlds, which is going to be a huge game, not only here in the U.S. but globally, right? And it's in Japan. And people lined up like right when they got in the convention at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Capped it maybe like 10:30, 11. And like that was their whole convention, waiting in line
like
for Monster Hunter.
Disneyland lines.
I'm talking about waiting the whole day.
That's all you.
That's
do.
all they did that day was
Oh
wait
my
for
God.
to play Monster Hunter World. You know what I mean?
Oh my god. Okay.
There's a game called Ashes of Creation coming out, a new MMO that I was telling Ryan about.
Yeah.
That's coming out that seems to be promising, but I wouldn't wait all day for that.
Did you wait in the line? Any line?
Me and Bev, I'll tell you this right now, and this isn't bragging. This is the truth. Me and Bev have been to enough conventions to know that lines aren't worth it.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Play the things you can.
Yeah.
And support the ones that have made their stuff available to you.
Right. Right.
Without lining up. I'll give you for instance. A really good one was Namco Bandai. They brought Dragon Ball FighterZ, something we're all very excited for here.
You're saying there wasn't a line?
There was a line at Namco Bandai, but they were smart enough to disperse their stuff. They gave 2 console games to PlayStation, and they gave 4 to Xbox.
Oh.
And so Xbox was so crowded for people waiting for Shadow of Mordor, Forza, Sea of Thieves, this other platform they had. It's so crowded there that people didn't even realize like there's Dragon Ball Z Fighter right there, like that. There's a giant line across the hall, like that are people waiting for this, and over here there's like nobody. So me and Bev got in there, waited for like 5 minutes, and then we got on.
Oh, so sick!
Love that game. Like I can assure you guys that this game is going to be good. Like it's a fighter through and through. The animations when they actually pull off their supers and stuff, and when they. I don't know how to explain it, but in Dragon Ball terms, when they kind of hit each other at the same time, and then it goes into that animation.
Yeah.
It goes into like a cartoon for a second, but it's not a cartoon. It's a fighting game. But I love that. What else did we play? PlayStation had a really good, because they're veterans, obviously, but they had a really good system where you could sign up for time slots.
Nice.
So we signed up to play Gran Turismo in their little car simulator. So we got into there. That was awesome.
If they implemented like a fast pass like that, right?
Yeah.
If everyone did that, you can make an organized, trip around the entire convention.
But I think there's still, I agree. I totally agree. And I would be 100% behind that. But there's still the aspect of making people want to do something, you know what I mean? The hype, right,
Yes,
right. Like Dauntless, for example. Look at our line. It wraps around our booth. Yeah. You guys don't know what this is, but now you want to know what this is.
So was it like a pissing contest where everyone's like,
a little
line
bit,
is longer?
A little bit. And then, of course, they had everyone who had a dragon in their game brought like a 2-story dragon to ride, like Shadow of War, Monster Hunter brought a giant dinosaur. And we played, Ryan will be jealous, we played Marvel's Capcom Infinite with the final roster. That's part of the disc.
How does Chun-Li look?
Oh, I don't think they applied. We didn't select her, so I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, no one.
I could say she looks good now.
Oh, there you go.
You saw the...
Yeah, I saw the latest build, and they definitely did work. She
go.
looks amazing.
There you go. I'm trying to think. It'll come to me what else we played, but we played a lot.
Yeah, right. So you played so you basically took advantage. You were smarter. You played the games that were available.
Yeah. The AAA games that were available to people.
But was there a game that had just like a ridiculous line that you kind of, if you had a day to dedicate, would play?
Absolutely, and I'll tell you what it is.
Yeah.
It was the Bethesda line for all of their VR games.
For all of them.
Those capped the second they let people in because of how long their dumb VR demos were.
Yeah.
And how long the process is of putting the VR headset on, explaining how VR works if you haven't played VR yet.
Sick.
And kind of stepping them through. And granted, if you're brand new to VR, you deserve to be walked through how VR works.
Yeah.
Because that's a great first experience. But it took so long that like that line was capped the second people got in. And
were people running to these lines?
Yeah, absolutely. And waiting hours before in line to get into the convention hall. And so what they brought was Doom VR, Fallout VR, and Skyrim VR. So all things worth waiting for.
Would you say it's like Black Friday where you wait in this line and then you know exactly what you want. You know where it is.
Absolutely.
And you plan out the fastest route. Oh, geez.
I think a lot of it has to do with not that many people have VR headsets, and they're not only they're experiencing the game, but they're also experiencing VR at the same time.
Sure, absolutely. I don't know if anyone wants to know what I played out there, then tweet at us LC_podcast. But
so you're talking booths.
Yeah,
a boot.
Booth.
Boots.
You're talking boots.
Oh, boots.
Yeah, I was wearing boots.
Were there panels? Because what con is a con without panels?
There were panels, and maybe what I like and don't like about these panels is they were more about not industry. They weren't industry panels. Like there was no one coming from Sony saying this is the PlayStation panel. Right. This was about like the gamers, the streamers, and the community. And when I say that, they're panels like how I made it on YouTube Gaming was a panel. You know what I mean?
Oh, cool.
There was a panel like how to become. You are a one-man developer on a game. How do you become successful? Sick. Panels like that, and I really like that from a standpoint of being on all sides of the spectrum, especially for us as media. Right. It's cool to see people successful talking about that stuff and how to break into the industry. But on the other hand, if this is the only gaming convention you go to, granted this isn't the only one we'll go to, but if this is the only one you go to, you kind of want to see Sony come out. You kind of want to see Sega come out. You kind of want to see Namco Bandai just come out and talk about what they have down the line. And I guess that's for the bigger stuff like E3, like media. But like I said, it's not for everyone, but it is for a lot of people, and I like what they did.
So you'd consider it, well, other than being more available, but a more intimate E3?
I would think so. Yeah. More about the people, more about the community. Right. The one big thing that me and Bev did see, PAX Penny Arcade, they have this is off video game standpoint, but they have a D&D campaign, and they did a live part of their campaign, which is awesome. So we love that. They did it in this giant theater that filled thousands. So
you watched people play D&D?
Oh yeah.
What?
It was awesome.
Tell me how that's interesting.
It was go to Twitch and go watch it right now. No, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. Sure. And then one other thing I want to talk about, unless you guys have more questions for me, then cue it up. But there's this thing within PAX they call it PAX Arena, where they have a giant section squared off of the convention center where you can sit and watch pros play, and it's the best in their field, right? In their respective fields. So there was a bunch of games that were on exhibition. The two that I watched on Sunday, I watched whenever we needed a rest. I'll admit it. We watched Blade and Soul. Oh, I don't know if apparently there's a PvP aspect to that, much like the WoW PvP aspect. But that was interesting. That was more just like we need to sit down for a second, so we might as well watch something. Take a break. And it was cool. I mean, to see the pros in their element, they're all about it. Right. But the one that I really want to see was on Monday, and I'm glad we got in on Monday. Was the Smash 4 tournament? They put on an intimate $10,000 tournament. Sick. Which is no small amount, really. Yeah. But they got the best players in the Smash 4 community playing, and they made it to the finals, which was cool. So I got to watch them multiple times. Sick. And then TSM 0 ended up beating Nairo in the finals. So spoiler alert. All in all, PAX is amazing. I would say it deserves at least one-time visit from anyone that really loves video games, and at least a one-time visit, I would say. And I highly recommend it. I feel like maybe once we get more regular with streaming, the Twitch area, and I hope YouTube Gaming does this one day. I should say. I hope YouTube Gaming has a presence like Twitch does at something like PAX, because they had a giant booth where I'm sure you guys have seen it on Twitch, where they stream to Twitch, they bring people on, they talk about it. Right. Well, across from that, there's this whole other Twitch partner scene where Twitch partners can go in there and mingle and just be eye candy for people that are interested in them, and they can talk to them. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and I thought that was really cool. Like, granted, like it's a little weird for people to be on display, but it made it. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but it was a really cool aspect of the Twitch booth. Like, here are your favorite Twitch streamers. Right. They're all kind of talking to each other. Yeah. You can walk up to them and kind of talk to them and like ask for autographs and stuff. Okay. Yeah. So, and this is a place to go if you're a Twitch partner, right? Without being mobbed. Right. So,
was it organized though, or was it
the Twitch stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, would you have to wait in a line just like that to go up and talk to them?
No, not necessarily. No, but they did. But there were certain times where you knew when they were there. So they would have to organize lines and stuff.
Like I was gonna say, what if like I'm there?
Oh yeah.
And then you get like a flood of people.
Well, see, there's the thing. You're not there yet. When you do get there,
Yeah.
they'll have to figure out the whole line system. I think that's a good segue out of of our cast. So, as always, we love to hear from you guys. You guys can follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, our email. That can all be found on our website. Patrick, our website address?
TheLastCheckpoint.com.
Go to the website.
Go to the website.
Check it out. Patrick's doing a good job on it. One-stop shop for everything that you need. And feel free to ask us any questions on any of the platforms that we're on. And like I said earlier, we are on YouTube now. We're on YouTube as a group. It is youtube.com/c/checkpoint. Check us out there. We're streaming. We're making videos. It's cool. So thank you guys for listening. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.